Hello everyone, it is your boy Ponzo live here, back with yet another Magic the Gathering video. Don't worry about what is going on in the background, just have some Brawl gameplay of one of my favorite commander decks, Omnath, Locus of All, and is a great representation of the topic that we'll be talking about today, which is how Brawl was going to turn you into a better Magic the Gathering player. Magic the Gathering's 1v1 format Brawl is one of the most popular at the moment and is my most played format when it comes to Magic. While it does have its flaws, it has made me a better Magic player overall, especially when it comes to playing Commander or EDH. Today I'm going to talk to you about the pros and cons of Brawl, how it makes you a better Commander player, and how you can adjust your deck lists from Brawl to Commander to make them better in each format. As a quick disclaimer, a lot of this advice will be relevant for players who primarily play in brackets 2 to 3, especially those who like playing a higher end bracket 3 deck, but can also apply to bracket 4. If you are a beginner player, I hope that you at least learn a thing or two about the benefits of playing other formats, especially Brawl, as well as older players understanding a new perspective about comparable game modes. In terms of the structure of this video, I will talk about the differences between the formats, the cons of Brawl, the pros of it, and finally comparing some of my deck lists between Brawl and Commander. But before we get into it, as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. I always appreciate seeing that, and it helps grow the channel, helps this informational video get out to those who may need it. Before we get into the weeds, what is Brawl anyway? Brawl is a 1v1 Eternal Singleton format that contains 100 card decks and a commander in your command zone. Similar to Commander, it has to be a legendary creature or vehicle, but unlike Commander, any Planeswalker may also be your commander. The life total is set at 25 and includes unique to Arena cards called Alchemy cards. This is more of an Arena difference, but Arena was released in 2019 with the earliest sets being on the client from 2018, so many years of Magic are not included in Arena. That may be synergy pieces for you to try out and not be available to try on Arena. Additionally, which I'm not really sure why, but some Commander cards from recent sets are not available, aka some of the Commander cards that have been released in pre-cons and are part of Eternal Commander sets. This makes me a little bit more excited to play these cards in paper so that I can try them out and be a lot more goofy and whimsical than what I can play on with Arena. With all that out of the way, we can get into some of the cons of Brawl. The first con, and I think is the biggest flaw of Brawl, is that it is one of the most toxic formats of Magic. It being an internal 1v1, a lot of players lean on extra efficient interaction, making it hard for you to actually try out your game plan. I've played tons of matches where the opponent just plays oops all removal or oops all counter spells, which is very good in 1v1 strategies, but is hard for you to try out a deck that is centered around one primary card that is in the command zone for both players to see. I have a Ninja Tribal list which primarily highlights cards from TMNT and other ninjas, and when I play into these kinds of strategies, it really feels like I play a ninja and then it gets removed, and then I play another ninja and then it gets removed, and then I try to play my commander and then I get washed away, and can lead to very frustrating interactions with the format in general. The second con is that your life total is at 25. Between power creep and alchemy cards, games are often determined in Brawl by turns 4 or 5, whereas most games in play groups or LGSs, when I go out and play in the wild, those games are determined around turn 7 or 8, which allows me to see more of my deck and see how my deck plays out, versus when I'm playing in Brawl, I have to be super locked in, make sure I'm not misplaying, and being super efficient with my mana. Thus, there is a more homogenization in cards that you see in Brawl that are chosen for efficiency rather than synergy. Finally, I'd be remiss to not touch on the point of Arena not having every card that exists. Between that and homogeneity, it may push you towards using a lot of the same cards, which sometimes transfers to my paper building habits. This constantly reminds myself that I need to put in a little extra effort into Skyfall to maximize my synergy when I'm building decks in paper, because there are probably better cards to use than the ones that I am accustomed to using in Arena. There's also the fact that Arena is super stingy with wild cards, and some of the wild cards that you want to buy that are mythic are like, you know, 50 cents in paper, or rares that are 50 cents in paper, and then it's hard for you to build your collection initially, and you want to get 4 rares and 4 mythics, which is $40 on top of a battle pass that you can't use to make wild cards, and you can't use your gold to make gems to buy wild cards, and you can't buy gems and wild cards. But these are the main cons. There's definitely a lot of pros that outweigh them. The first pro is that building decks in Brawl teaches you very good fundamental deck building basics. Before I started playing Brawl, I'd be referencing 3 different YouTube videos about how to use different templates to build a mana base, and how to have correct card draw and interaction, and basically fitting a bunch of cards into categories, which helps a lot initially. But once I learned and understood how to include certain ratios to maximize a good starting hand, and how the different ratios in a deck play into what you're going to be playing with. Nar! What? Thus, I learned and understood how to include different categories of ratios in cards to maximize my ability to replicate a good starting hand, which would transfer from Brawl even into Commander. Second, it really teaches you the basics and fundamentals of Magic. Through playing Brawl, I guess Arena in general, it has taught me the importance of sequencing, how priority works, and how to understand the stack to use it to my benefit. By understanding the rules of the game more, it allows me to enjoy the game more, because I know how I can participate to my fullest potential, primarily through funny interactions either between rules or between cards. What, boy? What? You want outside time? And third, and maybe the most important reason as to why Brawl is making you a better Commander player, is because the format is extremely toxic. Now, I hear you saying, "Oh, Ponzo, but you said it was a bad thing. How can a toxic format be quite possibly a good thing?" And I hear you, Squee. But listen, Brawl being a little toxic gives you some thicker skin, so that when you go out in public or play with your weekly play group, you learn how to keep your cool to win more games in these situations. Brawl being a more cutthroat format teaches you how to play around counterspells or removal, gives you more reps with your deck to teach you how to punish or not get punished yourself. It teaches you how to play through constant interaction to come out on top. And if you run into a strategy that is too toxic for you, you can always find a new opponent, which you can't when you're out in the wild. You're able to get more reps in with your potential Commander deck to understand your interactions within your deck, so that when it comes to game night, you can pilot your 40 health deck even better. Playing so much Brawl has evolved my Commander game so much that I'm constantly keeping up with the random people that I play with at LGSs or conventions, and leading me to win more games overall. So with all that understood, let's take a look at a couple of my decks on Arena and Architect, so that you can know the differences between how you should build Brawl decks versus how you should build a Commander deck. First and foremost, Brawl decks teach you how valuable interaction is and how to balance removal versus your game plan. In 1v1, sometimes waiting out and removing your opponent's resources before being proactive can be a valid strategy. Whereas in multiplayer, if you try that, you will fall behind on cards because there are 3 other people that can either pull ahead or disrupt your game plan. Also, with Commander having almost double the health of Brawl, you can be a little more lax with the cards you run, have a little higher of a mana curve, and can play a little bit more greedy, because with 4 players, each player has 3 other boards to keep in mind, and must decide if they want to put themselves 3 turns behind the other players by interacting or disrupting, or being proactive and risk becoming the threat too early. The decks I want to look at are my Rocco Street Chef deck and my Omnath Locus of All Legendary Tribal deck. I chose these because they have many differences that really highlight just how different some of the card pools can be. First, let's look at my 2 Rocco lists. My Arena list has way more interaction than it does in paper. This is because with Brawl being a faster format, running early forms of interaction is extremely necessary to either protect Rocco from being destroyed or remove enemy threats before Rocco can accrue enough token value to win. I also run some stronger cards in Rocco, like token doublers or alchemy cards, because when playing Brawl, some gameplay loops are necessary to keep up with what you'll see in matchmaking. In my paper list, I have more options to different kinds of ramp and token producers to make running some of these cards relevant and boost that whimsy factor. Another big factor is that some cards are cheaper in paper than on Arena. Next, let's look at my two Omnath decks. On the surface, they do have a lot of similarities, but in Arena, I run a lot more mana rocks because the mana base of cards I have unlocked in Arena is more limited than what I have in paper that I can proxy with Sharpies and just make proxies. There are also so many more cool 3-color pip legendaries that are available on paper rather than Arena that may show up in like commander decks or scene boxes that don't get transferred over. But in terms of removal and draw, there are similar levels of each in both formats, making the decks run similar and allow me to get quality reps in both formats. So that's kind of all I got in terms of the differences between Brawl and Commander. To sum it all up, Brawl makes you a better Commander player because beneath it all, it allows you to understand the game more, which allows you to know when and how to participate, thus making your game plan a lot more structured. Brawl also teaches you good deck building habits, which translate into Commander decks to make a smoother and more enjoyable game. Did you agree with this video? Were there any points that I made you go, or ha, or even a boy howdy? Thank you, partners, for swinging your partner around and around. And I hope to see you square dancing at your local LGS game store sometime near you. Bye!